Tonight, a wildfire sparks evacuations in California. Firefighters battle to corral flames east of San Francisco. The fire fueled by wind, heat, and it's spreading. Also tonight, water emergency after pipes burst in Atlanta, the race to return running water.
And I'm Dave Malkoff in Atlanta, where people are without water and essential services because of this water break and many others around town.
Mass shooting, 25 people shot, 1 dead in Akron, Ohio.
We outside, enjoying ourselves, the next thing you know, we running for our lives. That fast.
Plus, former President Trump drops in on the ultimate fighting championship in New Jersey.
Boy, the round of applause he's getting right now is pretty staggering.
New CBS polling on what voters think of his felony conviction and its impact on campaign 2024. Mexico votes, choosing a new president. And for the first time, she's a woman. CBS News is there. And later, 80 years after D-Day, veterans gather to celebrate an historic invasion and to remember the fallen who fought to free Europe.
World War II for them didn't last 6 hours. They come off the boats, they died.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us on this Sunday. Tonight, fire crews in California are working hard to gain ground on a wind-driven wildfire that scorched thousands of acres. The flames erupted Saturday, spreading fast in the grassy hills of San Joaquin County. Evacuation orders were issued for thousands of people who live in that area. CBS's Elise Preston is tracking it all for us tonight and leads us off. Elise?
Jerika, this is the first large wildfire in California this season, and firefighters are struggling to get the fast-moving flames under control.
The fire exploded overnight just south of Sacramento to more than 14,000 acres.
Pretty big fire.
Several nearby neighborhoods ordered to evacuate, and 2 major highways were temporarily shut down due to poor visibility from all the smoke.
Definitely this is scary because it's the first time that I've been so much close to the wildfires.
More than 400 crews from across the state are battling the fire, but the extreme heat, 40-mile-per-hour winds, and dry grass are fueling the flames.
The big concern is the grass crop. It's, 4 feet tall, and it's pretty thick and matted.
Residents and their animals are rushing to safety.
One structure on the ground. I'm not sure whether it's a garage or a house.
At least 1 structure has been destroyed. The flames have also spread to within 15 miles of a site operated by the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, which contains explosives. But officials there say there is no threat to the facility.
2 firefighters were hospitalized with burns. Crews may get a break a little later when winds are expected to die down. Jerika?
Elise Preston for us in California, thank you. To Atlanta now, where tonight the city's water crisis is threatening to expand. The city, already under a state of emergency, is investigating 2 more potential water main breaks. CBS's Dave Malkoff is in the thick of it there in Atlanta with more on that. Dave, good evening.
Good evening, Jerika. This water main break has been going since Friday. That sign back there, twisting back and forth, is 8 feet tall. Shooting from the ground like a geyser, this water main break created a river rushing through the streets of Atlanta. There was another big break west of downtown, and the city is investigating 2 more potential breaks. For a time, water stopped flowing at Atlanta's airport and at several area hospitals, where they had to relocate patients and cancel elective surgeries. By Saturday, crews had the first break patched up and some water was restored. Atlanta's water system provides water for 1.2 million people. Those living within 50 square miles in the heart of Atlanta have had no clean water to drink since Friday. There's water?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Lots of water.
Lots and lots of water.
Can he drink any of it?
Nope.
City officials have put some of the blame on decaying pipes. Others were unhappy that they didn't immediately hear from their mayor, Andre Dickens. Saturday night, he issued a state of emergency.
We actually definitely understand your frustration.
I'm upset.
Among the mayor's critics, rapper Megan Thee Stallion, whose Friday and Saturday night shows at State Farm Arena were canceled.
That's really crazy that a major city in the U.S. is going this long without no water.
The city is giving out bottled water, but Jerika, across the country, according to experts, there are 6 billion gallons that Americans lose every single day because of water main breaks.
Wow, that picture behind you, incredible, by the way. Dave Malkoff, thank you. Well, it was a violent night across the country. 25 people were wounded by gunfire, 1 killed in a shooting in Akron, Ohio. Police have not identified a suspect, and eyewitnesses describe the terrifying scene.
We outside enjoying ourselves. The next thing you know, we running for our lives. That fast, like that fast.
A lot of shots. I feel like I heard over 50 shots, heard a lot of screaming.
We just heard like fireworks. I thought it was the 4th of July, man.
And in Louisville, Kentucky, police say 6 minors were hurt in an exchange of gunfire. It happened at a parking lot where an outdoor party was underway. Well, there is new CBS polling out tonight that provides our first look at how voters are reacting to the felony conviction of the former President Donald Trump. It shows a majority of Americans surveyed think the jury reached the right verdict and that the former president received a fair trial. CBS's Skylar Henry is at the White House tonight with more on the numbers and what that looks like for the campaign ahead. Skylar.
Hey, Jerika, good evening to you. Yeah, in that same poll, half the country thinks that Trump is not fit to serve as president now that he's been convicted, though 8 out of 10 Republicans say the verdict was the wrong one.
In his first sit-down interview following his felony conviction, former President Donald Trump says he'd accept house arrest or jail time, though
I think it would be tough for the public to take. You know, at a certain point, there's a breaking point.
Last night at a UFC event in New Jersey, he received a thunderous welcome.
It's my honor.
In less than 24 hours, he's amassed more than 2 million followers after joining TikTok.
Well done, right?
New CBS News polling out today shows 72% of rank-and-file Republicans generally want the party to remain loyal to Trump. House Republicans want Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg to testify over Trump's prosecution.
And the purpose of the hearing is to investigate what these prosecutors are doing at the state and federal level to use politics, political retribution in the court system to go after political opponents of federal officials like Donald Trump.
Days after President Biden condemned Trump's claims of a biased legal system, some Democrats say the Biden campaign needs to make Trump's felonies a top issue, as others want his message to focus on the administration's work so far.
I think not only the president, but Democrats need to be making the case forcefully to the American people. I think the right approach is to make clear that real progress has been made on behalf of the American people because of the leadership of President Biden.
DA Bragg is expected to testify here in Washington on June 13th. As for the federal cases against Trump, the Supreme Court will decide by the end of the month whether he has presidential immunity from those charges.
And Skylar, on a separate legal matter, the felony gun charges trial against the president's son, Hunter Biden, gets underway tomorrow. That's just one of 2 that he's facing, right?
Yeah, that's right. This is a trial that's happening in Delaware. It's brought forward by the Justice Department, specifically the special counsel assigned to oversee the probes into Hunter Biden, who is accused of illegally purchasing a firearm while abusing or being addicted to drugs, which violates federal law. Hunter has pleaded not guilty to those charges. If he were convicted, he could face up to 25 years in prison. The second case is scheduled for September in Los Angeles and is tied to Hunter's financial woes. Jerika.
All right, Skylar, we know you'll stay on top of it. Thank you. To Mexico now, where voters are choosing a new leader after a violent campaign. The country is also making history, electing its first female president. CBS's Enrique Acevedo is in Mexico City.
Jerika, here in Mexico City, voters have showed up to the polls despite record-breaking heat in what they're calling una fiesta democrática, a democratic party. Here in Mexico City, voters turned out early and in large numbers. The mood is one of cautious optimism, while the nation anticipates the historic results, as the 2 leading candidates are women. Claudia Sheinbaum, the leftist former mayor of Mexico City, who began her political career as an activist. A scientist by profession, she represents current President López Obrador's Morena party. Her main opponent is Xochitl Gálvez, an independent former senator with deep ties to Mexico's conservative National Action Party and an indigenous background. This election is the largest in Mexico's history, with over 20,000 public officials elected at municipal, state, and federal levels, including the renovation of the Mexican Congress and the head of Mexico City's government. The electoral process has been impacted by violence. In the lead up to today's vote, officially 37 candidates have been killed and hundreds more have faced attacks or intimidation. But an independent report by local think tank Integralia says the number of those attacked could be as high as 700, including 231 candidates killed.
Violence. Poll after poll, Mexicans show this is the issue they care most about, they're most concerned with, and they recognize that the López Obrador government has not delivered good results.
Despite the challenges, 98 million Mexicans are heading to the polls today. The outcome of this election will also have significant implications in the U.S., Jerica, with undocumented migrants flowing through Mexico, trade, and border security among top priorities for voters in the U.S.
Enrique Acevedo in Mexico City, thank you. India this weekend ended its marathon election. Nearly 1 billion people there cast ballots during 6 weeks of voting. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party are expected to hold on to power, winning a third term. Well, today, thousands of people turned out for the annual Israel Day parade here in New York City. Marchers chanted for the release of the hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. There was increased security for the parade coming nearly 8 months after the surprise attack in Israel, with war raging in Gaza. We turn now to MTS Tayeb reporting tonight from Tel Aviv. MTS.
Good evening. Well, Hamas is under increasing pressure tonight to accept the Israeli truce agreement outlined by President Biden in his White House address last week, with Qatari, Egyptian, and American mediators now calling on both Israel and Hamas to finalize the agreement. Now, this is as Israeli forces pound Rafah in southern Gaza, killing at least 60 Palestinians over the last 24 hours across the Strip, according to Gaza health officials. And in a statement, Prime Minister Netanyahu insisted the war would continue until Hamas's military and governing capabilities were destroyed and that Gaza no longer, quote, poses a threat. Israel's three-stage offer would begin with a 6-week phase that would see Israeli forces withdraw from all populated areas of Gaza. It would see the release of a number of hostages in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails, and lead to the eventual reconstruction of Gaza, which is now almost all in ruins. And today, Jerica, White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said that if Hamas agrees to the deal, the U.S. expects Israel to also accept the plan.
We shall see what happens. MTS Tayeb, thank you. Today, onlookers were in shock as they watched a deadly mid-air collision at an air show in Portugal. 6 small planes from a civilian aerobatic team were taking part in a performance at the Beja Air Show. 2 of the planes made contact, which sent them crashing to the ground. At least 1 pilot was killed. Straight ahead on the CBS Weekend News, the D-Day invasion 80 years later. Celebrations include this parachute jump over Normandy. Our Elaine Cobb speaks with veterans on the front lines of history. Today in France, parachutists jump from vintage aircraft into the sky over Normandy, where war once raged. The event kicks off celebrations marking the 80th anniversary of D-Day. This week, the last veterans of the invasion who could made the journey back. Well, now in their 90s and even older, they came to remember their history-changing fight for freedom and to honor the fallen. CBS's Elaine Cobb is there.
Onto French soil.
June 6, 1944 was designated D-Day by the Allies, the day they sent ships, planes and troops to Normandy in western France in an offensive push to turn back the Nazi tide sweeping Europe. Nearly 160,000 Allied troops landed on the Normandy beaches that day. Of those, 73,000 were Americans. One of them was Dick Rung from Illinois, who joined the Navy at just 18.
We got this call from the beach. We were still on the water. And the message was, they are slaughtering us like hogs. And they were. There are bodies floating in the water.
They call our beach Omaha.
Omaha Beach was the scene of the first and deadliest wave of landings.
For most of the young men sent to free Europe, this was their first sight of France. For 2,400 of them, it was also their last, as they were mowed down by German guns here on Omaha Beach.
Walking amongst the crosses is always very calming, especially start reading the names and the ages. And they came from everywhere. And you start looking at the people who World War II for them didn't last 6 hours. They come off the boats, they died.
Scott Desjardins is superintendent at the Normandy American Cemetery at Colville-sur-Mer, where 9,388 white marble headstones bear witness to the huge loss of life on June 6th and the days immediately afterwards. The most recent headstone was placed just 2 years ago when the remains of pilot William McGowan were moved here from a local graveyard. Before that, his name had been among the 1,500 on the Wall of the Missing. Just a handful of American veterans are expected to attend this year's commemoration ceremonies. Most are too old to make the trip. Still, Desjardins says the cemetery remains a place of pilgrimage for people of all ages.
What draws them here is what happened here on the 6th of June, 1944, how it was done, and just the how humble these men were who sacrificed their lives.
For Dick Rung, it's never too late to learn the lessons from that day 80 years ago.
Work for peace, be a peacemaker, and you can save yourself from this.
Elaine Cobb, CBS News, Colville-sur-Mer, France.
Well, still ahead on the CBS Weekend News, 18 holes, 4 caddies. How's that for a day of golf? The caddy chaos is next. The first weekend of June marks the start of Pride Month. Today in West Hollywood, thousands turned out to celebrate the contributions of the LGBTQ+ community. The parade is one of the biggest Pride celebrations in the country. This year, singer and activist Cyndi Lauper was named the parade's Lifetime Ally. Well, a sudden caddy switch today during the final round of the Canadian Open. Golfer C.T. Pan's 76-year-old caddy slipped, fell, and had to leave the course. So Pan recruited a fan from the crowd, which is within the rules, but he only lasted 1 hole before being replaced by another random fan who lasted through the front 9. Now that fan was replaced by a veteran caddy who saw the chaos unfold on TV and eventually took over. That is a total, ladies and gentlemen, 4 caddies in 1 day. Well, next on the CBS Weekend News, thrills and spills in a downhill race dating back 2 centuries. We end tonight with one of the most peculiar traditions in England, if not the world. It begins on top of a steep hill. Our Ian Lee lets it roll from here.
For the love of cheese, people risk life and limb, hurling their bodies down a famous hill in England.
And we've got several big fallers right in the middle.
For a 9-pound wheel of double Gloucester cheese.
It's been recorded at 70 miles an hour.
For centuries, these dairy-chasing daredevils have pursued the prize to claim the wheel and bragging rights. This year, 2022 champ Abby Lampy from North Carolina will fight, or rather fall, to reclaim her throne.
What's the secret to getting down this hill?
Fully committing and sending it.
Abby convinced her friend from university, Kimmy Gibbia, to give it the old college try.
Once you're here, it feels a little like when in Rome. You're here, you might as well do it.
There are 6 races with 6 chunks of cheese up for grabs.
Are you worried about getting injured at all?
No, I'm not. I heal fast. I'm only 23.
A bit cocky then.
Or maybe it's a winning attitude, because off the line, Abby tumbles with tenacity in front of a crowd of thousands and a live national audience.
But she's a clear winner if she can just keep it together.
Watching every